We are live, and we are live.
Or live.
What's up, everybody? Daniel Allison, the average dude, and
Winny.
Jenny Winny
Yep.
with our
I gotta
weekly
fix my name.
LinkedIn Live show. Jenny Winny and the average dude. What did you say, Jen?
I got to fix my name. I don't need to put that Jennifer Watkins. That was my professional when I was on something.
Yeah, please fix that. It's already bothering me. I hope you have a cup of coffee. You have your coffee, Jenny? You got a little Diet Coke?
Little Diet Coke.
I've got my mug. I'm ready for a fantastic show.
Yes, I am too.
A little bit of energy.
Yeah, I've got a lot.
A little bit of conversation.
Yeah.
Lots of laughs.
Ha.
I'm gonna need you to supply the humor.
Huh?
I said I'm gonna need you to supply the humor.
I am pretty funny.
Are you? Now, I was having a conversation with someone, and we were talking about people that are funny, that are witty, quick-witted, and that sort of thing. Do you think it takes intelligence to be funny, Jenny?
Yes.
I think for a certain type of humor, for sure. So those quick-witted type folks. Now, then you've got those folks who just kind of fall down, roll around, Chris Farley kind of funny.
See, I don't find that as amusing as wit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You like the wit.
Like that slap something comedy. I don't know. I just don't find that as funny.
Really?
No, that's why I don't like stupid movies.
Give me an example. So, Dumb and Dumber.
Mm-hmm.
Don't like it.
Like, okay, so I like if it's gonna be I don't know, not really a comedy, but something funny. I'm just gonna throw this out there because we all know I love Robert Downey Jr., but his wit he's on point. Okay.
Yes, yeah. Well, his character kind of mirrors who he is in real life, doesn't it?
Yeah, I feel like I would like to be like the other Iron Man. I could be like Tony Stark in the girl form.
Yeah. Iron Woman.
Yeah, no, that ain't gonna work.
I just thought of that. Iron Woman.
That could be that could be my name if I were on American Ninja Warriors.
Iron Woman, Jenny Winny.
And you know what? We're having Thor, so we could be the Avengers.
Yes, we could. We're
going to talk about that. I'm on to something. I'm making a note here.
Okay, make a note. So we've got a great guest. Joel Thorneve is going to be joining us sometime soon. And
I looked back
before. Go ahead, Jenny.
I looked back. We talked to Joel like the end of February 2022.
2022. So over a year ago.
Yes. Now, I did tell him that Jenny Winny and the Average Dude was a better show now.
Oh, so you lied to him.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to say a lot's changed. Just so much has changed. What exactly has changed? I'm not really sure.
Well, the tech aspect, except your internet's still not that good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, he wasn't prepared last time. There was some. He had to get on his phone and that sort of thing.
Your internet, don't worry, it makes up for him, having any technical difficulties.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm here to help out. I don't know what it is. I pay these folks $80 of hard-earned money per month.
You live downtown, like in the city where it should be like, it's not like you're out in, the rural area.
I know.
Damn.
But I don't know what the situation is.
I'd like to say, and I'm not sure if there's anybody out there watching, listening.
Is there anyone out there? Hello, can you hear us? Can you see us?
Hello. But I don't know if you've ever, and probably Joel will know the answer to this, how a broken rib might feel. I feel as though in my older age, even though I'm not there yet.
No brittle bones.
I don't know, because I was painting and I was reaching, and then I did something not smart, and I stepped on something that was not secure. That was good. As it started to topple, I maneuvered my body and then this big faucet jammed up into my ribs, and I was like, And then I tried to get up and shake it out. You know how like if you're wanting to cry, but there's nothing wanting to come out. It's like,
yes,
that's it. That was the pain I felt. And it just hurts. Oh God, it hurts.
that is like my perpetual state. That I feel like crying, but I'm not going to. That's how I operate in my general day-to-day life. You know, when you were telling me that story, you know what movie came to mind?
What?
The way you told it reminded me of Young Frankenstein when he's talking about put the candle back.
That was me. It was like, put the bathroom vanity back. It was falling. It was falling. I was falling. Oh, Daniel, you're frozen. You see what I'm saying? Yep. It's like, we got to get you back. Okay. Are you with us?
Back. I'm back. It's good to be missed for a little bit and then be back. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But your face isn't back. Okay, we're going to get this together here in just about 2 seconds, or it's going to be solo. Wait a minute. This is the perfect screenshot of Daniel's eyebrow. It's the perfect eyebrow.
Hey, are we back? Am I back, Jenny?
You're back. You're back. Oh no, Daniel. You're gone again.
You know, I've been thinking about this little show that we do. Mm-hmm. Every week, every Thursday at 11:30, and
oh no!
I think what I want to do, you know, you have that tendency. Am I frozen again?
Yeah, you keep freezing, Daniel. Do
you think I hope we don't have to?
I don't know, Daniel. I don't know if it's going to come back.
Am I back?
You're back.
That's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. This has been happening like the past few weeks.
I know, and I have given enough excuses for everything. That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, it's look, Tyler. He is Tyler. I know what's happening, and I'm like, I don't know what. The show must go on, I guess, or we just, I don't know.
No, the show will go on. Jenny, Winny, if I freeze out, if I'm frozen, if I was to ever freeze, I want you to take the reins and ride that horse all the way into town.
Okay.
Yeah. But my whole point before I started freezing, and this isn't the way that I wanted to do it, but pausing and learning to live in that silence, right? Like in a podcast type scenario, it's like, the worst thing in the world is to be quiet.
I know. And the thing is that it's like when I hear that silence, first of all, right now, I think it's because you're frozen, but when I hear
I'm going to just constantly move my finger so you know that I'm still alive while you're talking.
Do it. Yeah. But no, it just, you feel like you have to say something just to fill the void, and you don't. Because we've been to like that the communication boot camp you had, listening to people like Michael Cogdell tell stories, and when he pauses, you're like, you're waiting for the next word.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So and I'm trying to train myself to do that poise, slowing things down.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So I hope the technical issues go away. I told Jenny, I said, we are going to have a fantastic, awesome, incredible episode if we don't have any technical issues.
You should have said that. You should not have said that.
I know. So I want to talk a little bit before we bring our guest on here. You've got, I don't know exactly what you've got, but you had creative freedom to come up with all sorts of games, pictures, things for Thor and I to look at that's going to be the catalyst for great conversation, great thoughts.
Absolutely.
Man.
Absolutely.
And I think we're all around the same age, so it's going to be interesting.
Actually, I think Thor might be a little younger, but I mean, nobody likes to talk about that kind of stuff.
No, I think Thor and I are the same age. I believe Jenny Winny's a little older.
Okay, well,
sorry, I just had to. I had to say it. I could not say it.
Okay, fine.
I mean, the truth is the truth. The truth will set you free, Jenny Winny.
Well, I'm your elder.
Yeah,
I'm Thor's elder.
Hey, coming to your house this weekend for the pool party. Can't wait.
Yes.
I've been waiting on I've been practicing some dives and things like that. I've got the classic straight in. I
Yeah.
just basically I get real stiff and I grab the nose and no splash at all.
It doesn't matter. I still grab my nose. I don't even understand what's happening because it's like I did a mud run
Yeah.
in Lakeland in Georgia. And I'm just, I'm going at it. And I'm not kidding. The people watching as I came down the slide into this big pool of mud and they saw me grab my nose, they were like, how deep did you think that was going to be? I was like, I don't know. It's just instinct to hold my nose when I'm going something down.
Well, I went a long time, holding the nose. I mean, I was a teenager. As you know, I learned to swim late. Y'all got to learn how to swim early.
Yeah.
That I was the forgotten child that had to learn on his own. I'm trying to get some sympathy here or something. I don't know what.
No.
But I finally learned to just let go of the nose and just kind of blow out. So this is a great way to segue. So I went through some training to get off the diving board. Our guest, he went through some training to drive a jet plane. So see, the training
is very similar. Yeah,
it's so similar. We have so much. We're the same age. I mean, I bet Thor can dive.
It's like looking at twins.
Yeah, except not. So, I wrote down some things here because I wanted to get this right. Mm-hmm. I looked up the company that Thor worked for, VMware.
Yeah.
Their total annual revenue last year is a lot of money.
A lot.
Billions, like 13 billion, or I think that was something like that.
Because they're all about like the cloud. Am I right?
It's an IT thing, and
yeah, I thought so.
They do a lot of business. This is what I know.
Yeah, I was wondering about. Well, I'll ask him when he's on.
Yeah, we're gonna bring him on. But so Joel Thor Neeb is the VP of Execution and Transformation, Office of the CEO. So we're gonna ask him a little bit about what that means too. But he's also a survivor. I mean, survivor's obligation is what he talks about. He's got a great story of overcoming the odds and continuing to press forward. I love that. He's also an American Ninja Warrior. But he's active. He's a speaker. He's a coach. He's inspirational. He's motivational. It's Joel Thor Neeb, and here he comes.
All right.
Hello. How are we doing?
It's been a while, Joel.
It's been a bit. Great to see you.
Yeah. So the last time you were on here, was February of 2022. So my first question, does it feel like that long?
If you were to ask me how long it's been, I never would have guessed that. I would have guessed like 8 or 9 months at
me
most.
too.
So it just goes to show you, time is flying.
Yeah, time flies. So I've got to ask you now. We were talking a little bit about swimming. We know you're an air guy. We know you're very used to being up in the air. What about the water?
He can swim.
I'm a very poor swimmer, actually. So a couple of years ago, on the 5-year anniversary of my stage 4 cancer battle, I signed up for an Ironman triathlon. And if you know an Ironman, it's 2 miles of swim, a marathon, and then 112 miles, I think, of a bike. And the 2 miles of the swim was what terrified me. I knew that was going to be absolutely brutal for me. I'm just terrible at swimming. And so I had to learn a ton for that.
Yeah, a lot of technique. But we all have things. It doesn't matter how much we do. There's always something left to overcome, isn't there, Thor?
That's the fun part, though, right?
Yeah.
I guess. Did you do well with the swimming, though, once you, trained?
So well in an Ironman is finishing. So, yeah. Finished. Yeah. Time was terrible. Nobody would have been impressed with the time, but I finished. I was proud of that.
Now, Thor, let me ask you this. Why keep going? You do all these things. You've done a lot, but it seems like every time I'm talking to you, it's the next thing. It's the next thing. It's the next thing. Why keep doing that to yourself? Don't you need some time to relax and rest and enjoy what you've done?
It's interesting. I actually have been reflecting on that a lot lately in terms of what does rest mean to me as well. But I'll tell you, for these opportunities where I'm pursuing something, I'll put it in a growth category where I'm really afraid of it. It's deeply uncomfortable. I've learned that those are the times when I really experience life the most, right? So either when I reinvented myself after leaving the military and having to jump into the corporate world, or then reinventing myself again and joining tech or fighting cancer. The best moments in my life have always been when I'm outside of my comfort zone. And so I seek those opportunities out, Daniel, to put myself.
Yeah. Well, I like having something on the calendar that I feel like, man, how do I want to feel when that starts? Right.
Right.
I'm not going to be if I just want to minimize those things. What can I control? Right. What can I can control to feel the way that I want to feel when the gun goes off, when the whistle blows, when the speech starts, right? Whatever it is. So how do you get ready for a big event coming up? What's your mindset and preparation for things like that?
Well, I love what you said right there, and I want to pick that apart a little bit, because you said you love the feeling when you're getting, you want to control everything for when the starter gun goes off. I thought you were going to say for when you cross the finish line, and I think the subtle difference there, the nuance, is so important, because I feel the same way. The finish, in other words, the finish line is almost the least exciting part of any of these journeys. It's really about between that starter gun and the finish line. What are you learning about yourself? And, how are you preparing for that moment in the race when you can't go any further? The example I'll give you is, as I was getting ready for the Ironman, I would tell people I was doing it. And by the way, I'd never done a marathon before. My last bike said Huffy on it. Yeah, exactly. Had pegs on the back so that my friends can ride on it. So I had no business doing this. And I remember talking to my friends, and every one of them was saying, you're going to do great. This is so exciting. I'm sure you're going to crush it, except for one guy. I talked to this guy. His nickname, by the way, was Iron Man. I heard you talking about Iron Man earlier. Yeah. And he's an MMA fighter, an incredible MMA fighter. Ryan Larson is his name. We went to business school together. And when I talked to him about this, he said, I hope you suffer. I was like, wow, that's the opposite of everyone else.
Yeah.
And he said, I hope you suffer. I'm so jealous of you. This is going to be so amazing. I hope you suffer during this experience and you find the limits of what you can do. And he said, when I'm on the mat, when I'm training for fights, the moments I really search for are when I'm about to be choked out, right? He's got a hand around his throat or an arm bar against him and a forearm against his throat. And he has to decide if he's going to fight through that or not. And he said, sometimes he wins, sometimes he loses. It's not the victory, though, that is his moment that he really cherishes, because sometimes he wins and other times he won't. It's just that moment where he has to decide how he's going to show up. And I thought that's so interesting. I love those moments, too. How are you going to show up in the hard parts of your life?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jenny, what about you? What do you have on the horizon that's pushing the limits? Do you have anything on the calendar that's pushing your limits?
Yeah. I mean, really just more with work. I mean, it's always that, next step, and we're approaching September 1, and that's when I'm supposed to be launching our website, and it's just the unknowns of all that, still makes me nervous. And then the backlash you get when things crash and don't go right or whatever. But,
You make an interesting point. They don't always go right? So that time between the starter whistle and the finish line. So I remember when Thor was here last time, my speech was coming up. I had my first keynote was last year. And I made it through it, Thor, but it didn't go exactly like I wanted it to. You know how you want that? You want that second, like, yes. God, as soon as it was over, I was like, I could have done better. I should have done it this way. I should have done it that way. How do you deal with things not playing out like you wanted them to?
Well, the secret is they never do. I mean, I flew 3,000 missions as a fighter pilot, and I've never flown a perfect mission. And so the point is not to wait for perfection. It's the pursuit of perfection. You have to love the journey. You have to love how you iterate each time. And so I've done, countless speeches as well in front of 10,000 people and on TV in front of millions of people. And every time there's something I would have done differently, you have to love the learning. You can't hate yourself for the failure. That's something people got to get over. And you got to also get over the fact that nobody remembers. Everybody likes to think like, they're counting my victories or my failures out there. They're going to remember how I screwed that up in the speech. The dirty little secret is people don't care about us. Like in every one of our brains, we have a movie going and we're the star. Yeah. And it's hard for us to see everything else taking place. And we think we're in the movie in other people's lives, but a lot of times we really aren't. So we're best off just pursuing these things for ourselves and forgetting about the audience.
Yeah. Somebody I've been listening to recently, and she said, we got to stop trying for perfection.
Yeah.
But she says, just try for excellence. Try to be as good as you possibly can be, because you're never going to be perfect. It's not going to happen.
The only tweak I make to that personally is I do strive for perfection, because I want to know what perfection is. I want to know what perfect looks like, and I'm going to strive for that, and we're going to plan for that. But I know that if I strive for perfection, I'll hit excellence, and that'll be enough. And I know I'll do a little bit better each time. So I'm getting closer to that.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a question for you, Thor. So you went from Afterburner, which seemed to be just a really super cool company. I mean, most folks, I mean, that would be like, okay, I have made it. I'm going to ride this out. But you made the decision to go to also obviously a fantastic VMware. Was that a tough decision? Was that a decision that you're glad you made? What does it take? How do we know when we're ready to move on from a good situation?
Yeah, great question. So, and by the way, I used to get this exact same question, except it was about why did you go to Afterburner? Because you used to be a fighter pilot, and that seems like that was such a great job. Why did you choose to do that?
Yeah.
And so I'll go back to the fact that what really feels good in life, at least to me, are those opportunities to reinvent yourself. When you find that you're coasting too much at any point in life, and we can all get there. It doesn't matter if you're flying fighter planes or in business. There's a moment where things just get a little bit easier. You're in your comfort zone, and it gets really tempting to stay there. And I was literally signing autographs as a fighter pilot. I would go to do flybys at NFL games and be pulled out on the field on the Jumbotron and sign autographs. So it would have been really cozy for my ego to stay in that place. And then I went to the business world where I was easily the dumbest person in the room every time I went anywhere because I didn't know anything about business.
Yeah.
But I love that because you're reinventing yourself. And so to answer your question, as you think about, as I went from Afterburner to now doing this in tech and starting over and once again being the dumbest person in the room in terms of a tech background, that was awesome. It was an easy decision from the perspective of what do I want to get out of my life? What are the chapters I want to create? And from that perspective, it made perfect sense.
And it just spills over. It's like these athletic pursuits spill over into the business world because you're always looking for that new challenge, that new thing to, like you say, hey, I'm not a great swimmer. I know what I'll do. I'll swim several miles out in the water.
Yeah. I'll put a date on the calendar where I'm either going to swim or drown because we're going 2 miles in the ocean.
But what does it feel like? I mean, I don't mind, like, I'm getting better at admitting, like, hey, I don't know, or being the dumbest one in the room. But does that feel insecure, like when you stepped into that arena?
No, not at all. I mean, maybe talking about it does, but I've always felt that way. I'll say all the time, I've had imposter syndrome since as early as I can remember. And for those who don't know, imposter syndrome is where you feel like you haven't earned the current opportunity that you're in. So when I went to the Air Force Academy, I'm looking at around and everybody's a valedictorian and everyone's captains of their sport team and just amazing things. And I'm like, gosh, I snuck in here. Same thing as a fighter pilot. I'm surrounded by these brilliant people that make this all look easy. And once again, I feel like I didn't deserve to be there. And again and again and again, what I've learned is that's, if you frame it right, that can be a bit of a superpower. And what I mean by that is if you show up and maybe you're right, maybe you really don't belong there right now. But the point is, if you couple that sense that there's a gap for you to close to earn this, and you have a growth mindset, meaning there's a path to close that gap, then that's a pretty great place to be because you're willing to put in what it takes because you don't deserve it today. And you also believe that there's a path to get there.
I love that. It made me think about something. It's do it anyway, right? We're whatever it is, we may not be ready. That might be the truth of the situation, but I was thinking about that saying, fake it until you make it. And I thought, what does that really mean? Fake it until you make it. And I think that showing up is being there when the gun goes off, right? I mean, you may not feel like you're ready, but you jump anyway. I don't think we change who we are. And doing things like this or doing a speech, being authentic as possible, that's powerful, isn't it, Thor?
I think the secret is that you'll never feel ready.
Yeah.
And, the example I'll give you is when we fly, we go from never flying planes to then flying solo in a plane that goes hundreds of miles an hour, that goes upside down. And, you're doing acrobatics in this plane. And of course you do this with an instructor up front. And my question for you is, how many missions do you think you get to fly? In other words, how many times can you fly before you think the next flight's going to be solo? How many flights with an instructor do you get before that? Any guesses?
100.
What do you think, Jenny?
50.
7.
7.
Holy moly.
So every Air Force pilot that goes through pilot training gets 7 flights before they literally are told you're going to go do this by yourself. And I'll never forget, in this moment, I'm with my instructor and he's getting out of the airplane. It's my 7th flight. And as he's walking away, I just have this moment of panic. And I think I can't just fake it at this moment. I grabbed him by his collar and I said, hey, because I got to yell because the plane's still going, hey, I don't feel ready for this. And he goes, I know you don't feel ready. You are. And he yanked himself out of there and left me alone in this airplane.
Okay, that's
right. He was right. I was ready and I never would have felt ready. If I would have waited for the moment I felt ready, it never would have happened.
Now let me ask you this. I know you were an instructor yourself for many years in the Air Force. So how did you use that lesson to help these new trainees as you were giving them their 7th flight?
Yeah, 2 ways. One, I had to take very seriously my responsibility to ensure they were ready. Meaning, what that means behind the scenes is that I didn't have the knowledge as a student pilot to know whether or not I was ready. And so I had to trust in my instructor. And so as an instructor, I had to go through the process. You have to at least trust a mentor. You have to trust a process or a plan that's going to get you to that point. And so I had this really important responsibility as I'm taking these first 7 flights for these students to truly test them out in every way and test the boundaries so that I could say with confidence that they were ready. It didn't matter what they said. They didn't know. They had no idea. So it mattered what I said at that point. That's number one. And then number 2, I had to realize that they're going to be the same as me. They're never going to feel ready, that this is not an emotional decision, that I just got to kick them out of the nest and tell them to go fly.
Tell them to go fly. It works perfect with the nest analogy.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Yeah.
So one of the things that we've started doing, Thor, is, and we've noticed, so since we've interviewed all sorts of people. Have we not, Jenny? I mean, from here to here, from A to Z, and heard all kinds of amazing stories. But what we really have found is that we're all human beings, right? And finding that commonality, some of the most inspiring things. I've always found you to be a super relatable, nice guy. You've had success, but see, that's inspiring, I think, to other people where they can kind of, hey, he's like me, right? I mean, Thor couldn't swim well, but he overcame it. He kept so in that line of thinking. Jenny Winny has some images and some things like that she's going to bring up, and we just kind of have fun with it. So Jenny, I'm going to let you start it where you want to start it. I see that Thor's got his reading. Thor, I've got mine too.
There we go.
I would put mine on, but you know what? I need bifocals now, so here we go. But anyway, first of all, so I think that I am a little bit older. Whatever. I'm 49. Daniel, you're 40.
Come on, Jenny, you're the same age.
I'm 49.
Yeah.
Yeah. How old? And Thor, how old are you?
46.
46.
Probably 46.
Daniel?
46.
Well, that's nice for y'all. But anyway, we are still considered Gen X. Okay. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. So I just went down this little rabbit hole of looking at some things that, Gen X, that we might recognize, what it might bring to mind. This first thing, though, honestly, I don't know what y'all might think it is or whatever, but I just want to get what your thoughts are.
Okay.
Have you ever seen anything remotely?
It is a cheese grater.
Good Lord, Thor.
Yeah. Now I put the glasses on and I see that myself. But that's amazing, right?
Did they only have those in the 80s? What's the connection
the connection is that every music video there was so many music videos that they were all dancing in that.
Oh yeah, this is TLC's waterfall video, right?
Is it really?
But I was like a cheese grater. I had no clue. Okay, that's the only one that was meanings. Okay, now this right here. How much of an allowance did you get as a teenager?
Allowance. Did you get an allowance, Thor? Did you get an allowance growing up?
I did, but you know what? It's kind of like with my kids, we do an allowance, but my parents would never hold me to actually stick into that. And so they were always the ones who made the decisions anyway on whether or not I got something. So the allowance in theory was a good idea, but it just really didn't matter. So I can't even tell you what I got, a quarter a week. Who knows? Yeah.
Did you have the kind of parents that were did they drive you, Thor, to accomplish things, or was this something internally with you?
So it's interesting. It's a great example of how I think that leaders come in pairs. And the best examples I saw of that were in the military too. So my mom was very much the type of person to drive me to get perfect grades and always, achieving more and going after more. And almost in a little bit of a gender role reversal from what you'd maybe stereotypically think about it. My dad was more of the cheerleader role and constantly telling me how great I was doing and, keep going and you can do it, and providing that inspiration. And I think it's really the combination of both those things, kind of the love and boundaries aspects that every leader or pair of leaders needs to have. And
wow, I love that. That's a fan. I mean, it takes that balance, because if you're grabbing the face mask all the time, that's not good. If you're slapping them on the backside all the time, that's not good either, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's good. All right, what else you got, Jenny?
Okay, I just like to say that my mom would give us a check at the end.
I like. This is probably Brian, because that's a weird I paid rent.
But yeah, I just and so we took those checks and opened a checking account with them, and there's nothing like having a check that you can't go spend it. So anywho, here we go. All right, okay.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that just takes me back to that commercial.
I know exactly her quote. Yep.
Now this right here, when you're singing along to Footloose, and do you know what the lyrics are?
Come on, Footloose.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sing it in my head.
Goose picked a fight with a moose. So yeah. Now this right here, okay, Thor, you face swimming, all these things. You do a lot of out there things, but these things right here, when I was a kid, were legit fears of mine, except maybe the Bermuda Triangle, because I knew I wasn't going to go to Bermuda. But were these for y'all?
Thor,
yeah, I was definitely led to believe that quicksand was going to play a much bigger role.
Didn't you? I thought that I was going to be out in the woods, stepping something, and my hand was just going to be reaching out, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's over.
Now, do you get into, Thor, when you think about space and things like that? Black holes are just so interesting to me, right? Do you geek out on some of this?
Oh yeah, that stuff's fascinating to me. It's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, now one thing I wanted. Did we freeze? Daniel did.
Now the Bermuda.
Oh, Daniel, I'm sorry, you froze a little bit. I think we don't need to go in and out of things. But one thing that I did too, as I was told Daniel, was that I was looking back through movies and quotes that when we watched them when we were younger, they might not have had any kind of significant meaning. Yep. But now, because I even tell my dad, I'm like, Dad, I'll look back at some of these sitcoms and some of the things that when we were little, my dad would be laughing or related to. I'm like, well, that wasn't even funny. But now we get it, So anyway, I was looking at some of these. These were just different quotes from and what they've changed now, how things we feel. I don't know if you've ever watched Fight Club.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I quote it all the time.
Yeah.
Well, then I chose very greatly. Yes, this quote right here is only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything.
What's that mean, Thor?
For me, the scene I talk about all the time.
Okay.
Do you remember when he goes to the convenience store? Tyler Durden does, and that's the Brad Pitt character, and he's kind of the one that's chaotic in the movie, and he takes the convenience store worker, the employee, and he drags him outside, and he puts a gun to the back of his head. You remember this scene? Really brutal, violent scene. You remember this? And I'll race to the punchline, but effectively, he's about to kill him. He takes the guy's wallet and he's looking at it, and he says, John Smith, I'm looking at you right here. What did you want to do in life? And John Smith said, I wanted to be a veterinarian. And he said, if you're not going to veterinarian school in a month, I'm going to come back and kill you. And he threw the wallet on the ground. And I love that because he forced him to face, the great quote in Who Moved My Cheese, which is, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And everybody has one of those dreams that's behind a wall of fear of failure, fear of whatever. And that scene in the movie captures it so perfectly. He knew what he was supposed to do in life and he wasn't doing it. He knew exactly what the answer to the question was, even under the duress of a gun to the back of your head. Mm-hmm. And I like the way it ends where Tyler says his cereal will taste better tomorrow than anything we've ever
That's so true. Yes.
Because he knows he has the clarity.
There's a little bit of a survivor's obligation there, isn't there, Thor?
Got it. Yep, that's right.
Yeah. I love that movie as well. I didn't see the depth of all that movie kind of signified and all that was actually happening until later on. And I rewatched. That was one that I rewatched because I like that one a lot too. And I definitely see, hey, I need to be a little bit more like Tyler, right? I mean, I need to break some of those that we cage ourselves in, and it's just like you said, Thor. It's fear, and we. Shame keeps us buried alive. Fear keeps us buried alive. And that's unfortunate. We're not dead yet.
Yeah.
Man, I need to go back and remember that, because that is true. Because honestly, it's like when you do feel like you're pushed up against a wall, you're like, oh, wait, I'll do this and I'll do that and do this, and then, wow. Yeah, that's okay. Well, I'm going to change it now.
Another great one.
Yeah. Carpe diem, seize the day. Do you think that way? Seize the day?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the boldness in the movie, if you remember, he stands on top of the desk, and it's the "Oh Captain, my Captain" scene, and it's just about having the boldness of life and to not care what anyone else thinks and live your life authentically and genuinely instead of applying this rote path. And if you remember the movie, they're like qualifying whether a poem was good based off of an equation.
Yep.
And he said, this is the worst way to be. I love this approach. I love this mindset that you have to be a disruptor to find your best life.
Even if you're the so-called dumbest one in the room, not knowing is just getting out there and putting yourself out there.
Exactly. And then realizing that if you're the dumbest one in the room, it's because you probably were the smartest one in another room, and you have something to teach them along the way as well.
I like that.
I do too.
Yeah. Because we've all got our little shoebox of things that we know about, and we feel comfortable in there. That's our confident place, and we know about that. I got to mention something that's on my mind that I've been seeing a lot. We're talking about, thinking about others and.
No, you're good.
Yeah, thinking about or chasing validation, right? I mean, even if you'll never catch it, you will never catch validation trying to run after it, chasing it, as I say. But at the funeral, there was a funeral I went to, and they were doing the eulogy, and they were talking about one of the great things that this very successful man had said. But he was talking about using our skills and talents to help others, and I just started thinking even about my own LinkedIn account. And I produce content. If I'm sitting there waiting on the thumbs to come in to validate, that is the worst feeling in the world, because the only way that it does good is if I'm waiting on those thumbs, right?
Did we lose him?
I think we did.
Right.
He's waiting on those thumbs.
Yeah, he is.
He's just, oh, Daniel. We'll give him
or you might be having a stroke, Daniel.
It could be.
Yeah.
And
you
actually,
smell burnt toast?
I did. And you know what else? It's like I had a crown put on yesterday, and for the my lip, and I looked like I had a stroke. People were looking at me, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but it's like I have no feeling in this.
I had 2 cavities this morning. I wasn't going to mention it. I didn't know how this would go, because I had 2 cavities this morning up until about an hour ago. My face was still sliding off on the side.
And it's like I've never had this happen. Being, the adventure seeker, whatever, I bit into a banana and chipped my tooth. But that being said, the dentist was like, that's very unusual.
That's a green banana.
I said, well, actually, you know what it was? I think that it was the day before someone had me taste some homemade ice cream, and it had a peach pit. And I think that just weakened it. And then the next day I ate a banana, and I was like, what is that? And it's my tooth. I've never had that happen. And it's just, I hate things like that. Just really just make my day. Just whatever. But anywho, go ahead. I'm sorry, Dan. You're back.
I am back, and you know what? That totally destroyed the lesson. But he was talking about using our skills for others, and I can feel the difference when I'm talking about someone else, when I'm trying to promote something else, kind of direct it away from me, but try to use the things that I've learned instead of trying to say, hey, notice me. Do y'all agree with that, or have any thoughts on why that's the case? If we're chasing validation, we never catch it.
Oh,
but
yeah.
if we have a way to kind of take the spotlight off of ourselves, then I think that's where I feel most comfortable.
I think, everybody wants to achieve immortality. We all want to be remembered. And the dirty little secret is that no one's remembered, right? I mean, name 10 people from the 19th century. I guess we can name a couple of presidents, and that's about it. Name 50 people from the 20th century. Probably wouldn't be able to do that with your family. My example I heard recently was, Betty White died a year and a half ago. She was America's sweetheart for 100 years. She lived 100 years.
Yes.
And my mentioning her name is probably the first time you've thought of her in a year and a half. So for somebody that's that prolific to have been forgotten by history so quickly, what are we going to be remembered for? And what a mentor said to me is, but don't be depressed. Don't be an icon, because icons don't last. Be an idea. And ideas are pervasive, and you're not going to ever be remembered, but allow your ideas, without you attributed to them, to your point, Daniel, to make it somebody else's idea and allow that to flow. That's the thing we should be pursuing.
I love that. We're not going to be remembered. I mean, and facing that truth, that's the sort of thing when I talk about truth being powerful, that's what I like to kind of think about and really accept. There's nothing you can do. And that's probably.
So there's nothing he can do right now. But now
dramatic pause.
Yes.
This is a speaking technique. This is where you hold the moment of silence. Yeah, we're waiting. Drum roll.
And
no, man, that's tough. I'll tell you the technology, but you're getting great reps at controlling the conversation. So,
listen, I mean, you just leave it open there. I want to show another quote just because.
Yep.
Please.
Okay.
Yep.
Rocky Balboa.
Yeah.
Life's not about how hard of a hit you can give. It's about how many you can take and still keep moving forward.
So this quote's on the wall in my TV room.
Okay, I have a confession, Thor. I was just like, there's a hidden camera in your. Wow, that's awesome. Okay, Fight Club, but this is so true. I was telling Daniel this morning. I said it is so true. You can hit as hard as you, but what can you take and still keep going?
Thor, why?
He was going to say, Thor, why do you have?
Well, you like the quote?
Yeah.
So the rest of the quote goes something like this. He's talking to his son, right? In this part of the movie. And his son sees him as a big shadow and he can't ever measure up to him. And he's saying to him, look, life, me or no, or she said, me, nobody is going to hit as hard as life. And what he meant by that is quit trying to compete against other people. Nothing's going to hit you and break you down harder than just life in general will. So prepare yourself for those moments and realize that life's going to knock you down. And life is going to force you to get back up. Cancer for me, cancer hurt me more than any person possibly could have in my life. Loss is going to hurt us more than any person possibly could in our life. So we go in this fruitless battle of comparing ourselves and competing. And it's good to get you to move a little faster. In other words, I like to think of the people that were haters of mine as a bit of my haterade, I call it, to get me to start the race. But it's a horrible reason, a very toxic reason to finish the race. You have to find something else that's going to get you to that finish line, and besides the haters that get you out of bed.
I remember, Jenny, I'm sure Thor does. Do you know who David Goggins is, Jenny? So he's a Navy SEAL. He's got incredible, he just kind of he goes to the pain cave and just is able to keep going. I don't know. How would you describe David Goggins, Thor?
He's an interesting one. He is absolutely somebody who pursues suffering. The only challenge I have with him is I can't tell if he's pursuing suffering for the sake of suffering. In other words, I feel like he's still running away from something. I can't tell what he's running towards. He's a perfect example of someone who appears to me to constantly be outrunning haters. And I don't know what's in front of him.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Okay. See, I never can tell when Daniel's just posing or what, but I'm just going to move on. Okay. Not that one. That's not the one I was going for. Right here. Do we like this movie?
That's a great one.
I know. Falling down is how we grow. Staying down is how we die. Daniel, any thoughts?
Any thoughts? Well, where I would like to take this is away from the quote. I mean, that's a great one. It reminds me of the other quote. But that movie in general, that the one scene where they are essentially put into a situation where they're going to lose the battle.
Yep.
But he goes straight into warrior mode. He gets all those guys behind him. And I can't remember the words that he used, but basically it meant shields up or whatever. And they came up with a plan of attack against unbeatable odds. And
they stayed together as a team. It was all about you stay with your person, be a team. Don't try to be, not on your own. And that showed, I mean, to me, that I love that part, because he's like, everybody stay with your, because they were chained to somebody, and you stick together and you fight together. We're all going to do this as a team. Yeah.
So I've got 4 movie posters up in that room I was just talking about. One is Rocky Balboa, and the other is Gladiator, and then there's 2 more. So good job, Jenny, picking these.
Yes.
For me, the quote though, this one wasn't the biggest quote for me.
It's not. No.
At the end of the movie, it's another subtle quote that I love when it's an old movie, so hopefully, spoiler alert, you know this already, but when Maximus dies, and now his friend, the other gladiator, is the only one left, and he said, "I'm going to see you someday, my friend, but not today." And I love that, because what he's basically saying is he's saying, I'm going to die in life. I know that there's an ending to me, and I'll rejoin my friend in eternity. But at the same time, he was smiling and saying, but not today. I'm going to take advantage of today. And I love that mindset, that we're conscious of this train coming at us, our own death and our own demise. And we're doing something today, though, that we're proud of on our way to that.
Yep.
Ending.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Just the passion after he lost his family, and just the way that his mindset was, and overcoming all of those incredible odds. And when he finally shows him who he is, I guess you remember that part. I know I'm terrible at telling movies, but he reveals himself to his true identity, and the way that he says who he is. I love that part. That part gives me chills just talking about it.
Okay, I'll do one more. Let's see here. Good Will Hunting. You'll have bad times, but it'll always wake you up to the good stuff you weren't paying attention to. Oh, are we both frozen?
So for me, since it looks like Daniel's frozen, love that movie. Good Will Hunting's phenomenal. But what I go to, remember that scene where Robin Williams, who's this psychologist for Will Hunting in the movie, says, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault." He keeps saying it over and over again. And that is such a powerful scene to me, because you don't really see the trauma in this guy. He's this tough guy. He doesn't back down from fights. He's super competitive. He's super smart. And you don't see the trauma he's endured until Robin Williams has that conversation with him. And then he breaks down.
It breaks him down. And it's like all of a sudden, it's like that mask comes down. He's not faking it. Yeah.
And here's what I've learned, Jenny. I just experienced this 2 weeks ago. I went on this retreat to help build better leaders in business. And it was a 4-day experience. I was astounded at when we took our masks off, the amount of trauma that people had in their lives and what they had endured. And they would never tell you, but as you realize what they've overcome on their path to where they're at today, and these are all CEOs and business leaders, amazing people, you would never have guessed the sexual abuse, the horrific things they endured as kids throughout all of this. And it just was a great reminder to me that everyone has one of those stories. The Good Will Hunting story was not unique. Everyone has that trauma in their past.
And I think that we're all afraid of how people will perceive us.
Yeah.
But I've learned that it's like I was fortunate enough to do this podcast with somebody that he interviews different ones in South Carolina, and it was like he said, "Man, I wish we'd have talked about these things more." It was more when I opened up about what I had actually been through.
Right.
People, of course, they want to see how you succeed, but it's like, wow, you're so relatable that you came through this and this and this and this, And I was reading, because I knew you went through stage 4 cancer, but it was appendix. Is that right?
Yeah. Which sounds like nothing, but it's.
No, but I was just wondering how something like, I don't know how I missed that last time, but when I was looking, I was like, okay, wait a minute. It was his appendix. How does something like appendix get to stage 4 cancer?
So almost every one of the appendix cancer patients is stage 4. So if you meet somebody who has appendix cancer, the sad part is it's probably stage 4, much like pancreatic cancer. If you know pancreatic cancer, it only really presents as pain or a symptom after it's really grown. And so the same thing with appendix cancer. And so it had gone to 4 organs inside of my abdomen, and just all sorts of bad things.
Oh, wow. Now, I also was reading is that so you do the American Ninja Warrior and all these kind of things because it's completely non-related to work? Is that right? Or it's like,
why I do it?
Yeah. Well, not just why, but it says like I think it was something you said something about choose a hobby that has nothing to do with your work.
Right.
Is that why you did start it out that way, or?
I'm a huge fan of having other things that you're pursuing out that are completely independent of your workday.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the four verticals in my life: faith, family, fitness, finance, that I pursue, or all things that I have a stretch goal for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I like to do that is because I can have a great day at work. I can feel King Kong, and I can be in my CEO role in my previous role at Afterburner. Or I can be leading a transformation for 40,000 people, and everything's going great. And then I go up to my Ninja Warrior training, and I get my butt handed to me. Or jujitsu, I'm doing that right now. I get beat up every day in jujitsu, and that's humbling, and it gives you something to strive for. And I think that's an important balance in life. We're never so great that we can't be humbled. We're never so down that we can't find the path out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to have both of those at the same time.
Can you tell us, I mean, Daniel, if you need one of these just to speak, you just let me know.
Hey, you're on a roll. Keep it going.
I was wondering, because I want to know before we're out of time, is about the business you're in now and the cloud, because the cloud is very confusing to a lot of people. But this is this cloud? So it's like, say I create an app for the boutique, let's just say. Are you doing individualizing like clouds for different companies? Is that how it is, or?
So not quite. So VMware we put our names on the world with the cloud. We're basically the inventors of the cloud. 26 years ago, the company was founded. We had something with virtualized machines that sold itself. It basically flew off the shelves, almost the defining technology of the 2000s. You wouldn't necessarily know it because it's not something like an iPhone that you can hold, or
right.
It's the best way I could say it is it's like the plumbing in your house, and you know when it works, and you definitely know when it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the thing that you see out there, but it makes everything better. And so VMware behind the scenes, through this theme of virtualization, is in just about every company you can name, and we're making technology run better. And particularly right now in a multi-cloud environment, everybody has a multi-cloud. And just in a personal level, I've got Google Drive, and I've got Dropbox, and I've got OneDrive, and I've got all these different things. And it's hard for me to find documents on every one of those, and they don't really talk to each other. And so imagine that at a company level. Now you have a corporation with some applications on OneDrive and not on another. And so we're the translator for all of that to make simplicity out of the chaos.
So it bridges them, kind of?
Absolutely, yes. We create an abstraction layer between all those things.
Okay. And then what was funny is that I noticed you posted a picture of you on American Ninja Warrior, and it looks like your foot's on kind of, and I have the picture, but I didn't want to put it up, but you posted it. So
you can put it up, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to know what was happening in this picture.
This is about a quarter second from failure in this one.
Let's see here.
Yeah. And there it is. Yep.
I mean, to me, that looks like you're levitating. So I would be proud.
Well,
I would be very proud.
Yep. Yeah. For that one, millionth of a second, I was levitating. Very quickly after that.
What is going on right here, and what's going through your head?
So at this point, I was doing a launch from this thing that they had in the sky, and trying to land on that platform where I do have one foot on there. You can see me doing one of the, Wile E. Coyote, swinging my arms, trying to stay on it. And it's not going to work. So this is literally like a quarter second from me being in the water and failing. And I love to show the failures because, Jenny, you made such an important point earlier. I think we've gotten into this world where each of us has this highlight reel we put out on social and about our lives, and you're going to see the best of me, right? And I think that's a miss. I think that one, it sets false expectations, but you just can't relate to that. Who wants to see Superman selfies all day long, right?
I agree. They want to see when you look a fool. They want to see, and I'll do that because I'm like, you know what? It is who I am. You know what I mean? This is it. What I particularly love is if you see down here, the people's faces as they watch, it's almost like they're horrified. I don't know if you paid attention, but they're all like,
oh yeah, they got the literal "I'm in shock" and all.
Yeah, it's almost like we can't believe.
One of them's smiling. One of them's happy. He's got a little Schadenfreude. He's like, Lee.
That's one of your haters, Thor.
That's a hater who showed up.
That's it. Yeah, haterade. Oh,
now talking about this is making me think, and it's funny how things come together. These little, what do they call it? The secrecy. Somebody help me with those. Yes, thank you. Of life. So Thor was able to make it today. Thanks so much for coming on here, and it really made my day. But we've known Thor for a while now, and one of the things that I remember, he commented on something that I never thought he would comment on. I did a post on the 50-yard dash, I fell on purpose. And I've told that story many times. I told it this morning at a Toastmasters. So I've told it ironically enough, they asked me to tell that story this morning. I said, well, Thor's going to be on there. And he too, the jet pilot also fell on purpose. Tell us the story, Thor.
Yeah. And you're referring to held back in the race effectively, right?
I think, yeah. I think that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was me trying to curate the world's perception of me. And this is in high school at the time, and I was a fast runner. And this is the problem when you have a fixed state mentality. And of course, I didn't know the psychological babble of when I was a kid. But I in my head, I had this image that I wanted to portray that I was a fast runner. I didn't want anybody to believe that I wasn't a fast runner. And I didn't have a growth mindset that said that I'm not quite where I need to be. I had imposter syndrome, so I believe that I snuck my way in there. I really didn't deserve to be there. I didn't have a growth mindset yet. And so rather than try to close the gap and become worthy of this, I would fake an injury and, be the person who didn't do the race, because I'd rather have you think that I could do it than find out for sure that I could or couldn't. I'd rather live in that hype.
And that buried me alive for many, many years. I needed an excuse of, I could do it if I did this. No, right. do it, and I kind of hid behind that. That was their security and just thinking that and saying that, if I didn't fall. And then I went so far as to, like you say, we go a long way to protect that identity.
Yeah.
Or even if it's a false identity, right? I mean, so.
Well, it's like, you know what? It's just like you putting yourself out there swimming. You know, I mean, you could have been like, well, I'm not going to be able to do it or whatever. But the thing is that it doesn't matter. You did it. That's the thing. I at least now, and I think, like you said, when we're younger, we want to have this perception of who we are. Daniel wanted to be the 4th grade leader of the 50-yard dash, But I think as I get older, and this is what I try to tell my daughter, she just turned 20. It's like, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Be who you are, and that's what people genuinely are drawn to. They're genuinely drawn to the fact that y'all dropped out because you were scared you were going to lose.
It's the truth. That I love telling the story because of what we're talking about. The same reason that Thor, we do good things, we do stupid things. I mean, we're not. There's nobody that I've met that I think, man, even you know what I mean. They've got this great list of things and accomplishments. We're all human beings. And to that point, I've got one more thing that I want to ask Thor before we get out of here. And Thor, you may have another point. You've been around a lot of successful people. You were the CEO of Afterburner. Now you're around a CEO of a large corporation. You've seen a lot of successful people. So I want to talk about the human that you see. Do you see that most of these folks have similar human qualities, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, of course. They absolutely do. But they also have things that I aspire to. And what I mean by that is I don't put them on a pedestal. I'm not gushing over them and, think that they're superstars. What I believe is that they have worked hard at something and grown into an area that I can grow into. And probably the best example of that, my favorite mentor personally is the Intel CEO, Pat Gelsinger. And we spent a couple of weeks traveling through Europe together in June. And he's just a brilliant guy. He's got an incredible faith and principled and ethical leader. He's standing on the front lines for our country right now as chips, which are going to be basically the oil, the limiting resource of the 21st century, just like oil was the limiting resource of the 20th century. He's making sure that we have the capacity to be a global superpower, and that's not wrestled away from us. Literally, it can come down to this one single capability. Wow. And he's just such an inspiring leader. And so today, I'll give you an example of it. So today I'm fasting for 24 hours and I do this every Thursday. And right now it's like hour 19 of the journey. And the reason I do that is because this guy does it. Pat Gelsinger and I will text with each other on Thursdays and we'll talk back and forth about what we're focused on, what we're praying over, and what we want to see take place. And it's during this fast. And he does this as a CEO of a publicly traded company in the Fortune 50. And so it doesn't matter if he has an earnings call that day. It doesn't matter if he's got a $10 billion request from the German chancellor like he did when we were in Europe. He just still does it. And so for me, that's a great example. He still puts his pants on one leg at a time. And to your point, Daniel, he's just a regular person, but he also has incredible habits that I aspire to be able to accomplish the things that he does.
I love that. I love that. Creating proximity to these people that are doing amazing things is good for us because we see what hard work and dedication and we get to be inspired by that. One of the main reasons that I wanted to have you, one of the many reasons that I had you on here today, Thor, is because you always bring that for me. You always bring me something to aspire to, something to keep working hard with. And so I appreciate you coming on today.
My pleasure. Great to see you both. And looking forward to the next one.
Yes.
Yep,
thank
absolutely.
you so much.
All right, Jenny. Have a good one.
All right, everybody.
See ya.
Bye.